Hey everyone, Aaron here, and I actually like the other review. This is actually also a birthday review for my dad this time. Happy birthday, Dad! I love you very much. God bless you. And this review is of Voltron. I figured, to review an anime at least for you, Voltron would probably be one of the best ones I could think of. I was thinking either Gigantor or Speed Racer, but I was like, you know what, Voltron. Let's go with Voltron. You don't see too many reviews of Voltron anymore either. So, quickly, Voltron is a pretty basic premise where, almost like Power Rangers, if you've never grown up in that time period, is where five heroes are kind of given keys to giant robots that are based like tigers and such or lions. And what they do is when they actually form up, they make Voltron. And there's actually a lot of things you can find where they joke about Voltron here and there because it is something that is actually classic in terms of how the robot genre became certain way. And what I mean by that is actually Power Rangers, for example, took the same medium that Voltron's based off of, where having each pilot not pilot the whole robot or big robot, but more so a smaller robot that becomes a bigger robot. And you'll find that even now in a lot of anime that does that. I've seen a whole bunch of shows that kind of build off this concept because hey, it comes from Voltron. This is the precursor, the beginning of that robot trope in a lot of things. Now, Voltron was always kind of it's a mixture of a little corny and a little awesome. I remember when I grew up watching it. I wasn't from my time period, but I also had some great love for Voltron because I thought it was cool as a kid. My dad, I remember showing me the first few episodes when they were on TV, and I watched them in shock and awe of just how awesome the animation was for it. And this was already by the time like I said, I watched other anime before that, but I also am a firm believer in kind of going into the classics. Watching the classics to see where things come from, because a lot of people know about the new stuff. They know about this or that, and you almost forget where it's come from. Where did this get born from? I mean, Gigantor, for example, and not even though this is the review for Voltron, I have to mention it. Gigantor is the quintessential concept of giant robot battles, against creatures or other robots. That's where that came from. That was from the early 50s and 60s. Same with Voltron. Voltron came out in the 70s, but it was the quintessential concept of a team of units that build together to make a stronger unit. And that's what this show kind of embodies, the concept of teamwork and, working together to fight against evil and such like that. I mean, the show was never anything that was trying to be phenomenal in terms of story. It's very generic if you look at it. Even for back then, it was kind of generic. We're fighting the forces of evil against all the evil. I mean, there was things that did this before, prior to it, of course. But this show in particular set in motion something that even now is still being used to this day in Power Rangers, in other anime that have the five robots that combine type thing. And I mean, it's amazing. This is something that set the boundaries for something, and that's pretty cool. I think that's needed to understand it. But yeah, Voltron was always something that I watched and I liked. Even when I got older, I actually still like the show. It's corny, don't get me wrong. It's got some very corny dialogue. The voice actors, some of them actually try a little bit too hard, and you can actually tell who the voice actors are and who the voice actors they got just to kind of hold place for them. You can tell who they are. And what's funny is Voltron has been mimicked and remade multiple times over the course of years, and it's never hit the same note as the classic. I actually always prefer the classic, even with the new stuff that came out recently. It might look better, it might sound better, but it's not better in terms of story and concept. And I just think Voltron was something very cool back then. I mean, even when every episode was very like one another. I mean, this show I think lasted over 100 episodes, and almost every episode was the same concept of them fighting forces of evil on the floor, and then having to fight a giant robot or creature by forming Voltron. But it was cool. It was something that was fun to watch, and it's something that even now you can appreciate because it's awesome. So if I had to review Voltron back, and this is more based on the standards back then of when it came out, I would say a B plus. This is something that, it did have its corny factor, if you were a kid back then, you probably thought this was the best thing in the world. I'm not saying that because I wasn't born around this time period when this came out, but it's something that I know also that it was had other things that came out prior to that, and this is the quintessential again, like I said, of showing this concept in anime, and I mean this is something again that's still used today, and I have to drive that point across because I mean this is something from the 70s, and we're now what 40 years later, 50 years later, and it's still being held strong, and I think that's really cool. I think that's when you could do a benchmark like that and create a staple for the anime genre, or any even again Power Rangers goes by this concept. When you could do that, it's just phenomenal. I think it's cool, and I love you, Dad, for introducing me to Voltron. You were one of the reasons that I also got into anime. I watched a lot of anime because I saw stuff like Voltron, Speed Racer back then, and Gigantor. I mean, I watch different stuff now, but it's still this is my childhood, and this is what made me grow into watching the other shows that I'm watching now. I love you, Dad. Again, this review is mainly for you, not for anyone else. Because I mean, I doubt a lot of you, my viewers, will understand what Voltron is or have even seen it. But if anyone else enjoyed it, I'm glad. But again, happy birthday, Dad. God bless you again. And that's it for this review. And yeah, have a good one, everyone. Bye.